Right now, stop reading for a moment and just listen. Really listen. Somewhere in the background, there's a hum. Maybe it's your refrigerator, maybe it's a fan, a computer, traffic 3 blocks away, a plane crossing the sky you can't see. You probably stopped noticing it years ago. Your brain filed it under normal and stopped reporting it to your consciousness. But that hum didn't exist for 299,800 years of human history. For nearly all the time that anatomically modern humans have walked this planet, there was no mechanical sound anywhere. None. Not a single engine, not a single motor, not a single electrical buzz. The loudest sound most of your ancestors ever heard in their entire lives was a thunderstorm. So what did the world actually sound like back then? The answer is stranger than you'd think. And once you understand it, you'll never hear your own life the same way again. Let's start with a number that should disturb you. Acoustic ecologist Gordon Hempton has spent over 40 years recording natural soundscapes around the world. In the 1980s, he identified 21 places in the continental United States with more than 15 minutes of uninterrupted natural quiet during daylight hours. By 2007, that number had dropped to 12. Today, he estimates fewer than 5 remain. Think about that. In a country of 3.8 million square miles, there are almost no places left where you can sit for a quarter of an hour without hearing something humans built. No cars, no planes, no air conditioners, no distant highway hum that you've trained yourself to ignore. Just the wind, the water, and whatever creatures happen to live there. And here's the part that gets uncomfortable. For your ancestors, that wasn't a rare experience. That was every single second of their lives. From the moment they were born until the moment they died, the only sounds they ever heard were natural ones. But to really understand what this means, you have to understand how loud the world used to be in a completely different way. Because pre-industrial silence wasn't silent at all. It was alive. In 1993, biologist Krause coined a term that changed how we think about sound. He called it the Biophony, the collective sound made by all living creatures in a given environment. Krause discovered something extraordinary when he started recording wild places untouched by humans. Every species in a healthy ecosystem occupies its own acoustic frequency. Birds sing at one pitch, insects at another, frogs lower, mammals lower still. They've evolved over millions of years to fit into the soundscape without drowning each other out. It's like an orchestra that nobody conducted, where every instrument has its own slot. And when you stand in a place like that, surrounded by hundreds of species all communicating at once, the sound is overwhelming. It's not quiet. It's dense. It's rich. It's the sound of a world working. This is what your ancestors heard. Not silence in the modern sense, but a living acoustic environment so complex that we don't even have a word for it. Imagine standing in a forest at dawn 30,000 years ago. The first thing you'd notice is that you can hear distance. Sound travels differently in a world without engines. There's no acoustic floor, no constant background hum to mask the quiet sounds. You could hear a deer step on a leaf from 200 feet away. You could hear water running half a mile in any direction. You could hear another human breathing 50 feet from you in the dark. Your ancestors weren't just listening to the world. They were navigating it with their ears. Hunter-gatherer societies that survive today, like the Hadza in Tanzania or the Inuit in the Arctic, still rely on this kind of acoustic awareness. They can identify animal species by the sound of their footsteps. They know which direction a herd is moving without seeing it. They can tell time by the changing pitch of insect choruses throughout the day. Your ancestors had ears that were doing all of this, all the time, without effort. Because the world rewarded them for it. And then we drowned all of that out. But here's where things get really strange. The death of natural silence didn't happen slowly. It happened in roughly 200 years. For 800 years, the loudest constant sound on Earth was wind. Then, between 1750 and 1950, humans built machines that permanently changed the acoustic atmosphere of the entire planet. The steam engine arrived in the early 1700s and immediately created the first sustained mechanical sound that humans had ever lived alongside. Factories began running 24 hours a day. Trains carried this new sound across continents. By the late 1800s, internal combustion engines were everywhere. Then came aviation. Then came the universal automobile. Then came air conditioning, refrigeration, electric motors in every home. The world went from completely natural sound to completely artificial sound in less time than it takes a single redwood tree to grow to maturity. And here's the most disturbing part. Your nervous system is still calibrated for the old world. You evolved over 300,000 years to react to certain sounds as threats. A sudden crack of a branch, an unfamiliar rustle, the low rumble of something large moving in the distance. These sounds triggered fight or flight responses that kept your ancestors alive. But your modern environment is full of low rumbles, sudden cracks, and constant mechanical noise that your brain processes the exact same way. You just stopped noticing. In 2011, the World Health Organization published a study on the health impacts of environmental noise in Europe. Their conclusion was staggering. Chronic exposure to mechanical noise, even at levels we don't consciously notice, increases the risk of heart disease, sleep disorders, cognitive impairment, and what they called annoyance, a clinical term for a stress response that builds silently over years. They estimated that environmental noise was costing Europe at least 1 million healthy years of life every single year. Not from explosions, not from concerts, from the constant low hum of modern life. The hum you're hearing right now and didn't notice until I told you. Your body knows. Your conscious mind doesn't. But your nervous system has been mounting a quiet defense against modern sound for your entire life. And it's losing. But there's something else, something more profound than the physical toll. We've lost an entire mode of human consciousness. In 2019, researchers at Pennsylvania State University ran an experiment with subjects who spent 4 days hiking in genuinely quiet wilderness, the kind of places Gordon Hempton would have flagged on his list. After 72 hours of uninterrupted natural soundscape, the participants showed a 50% increase in scores on creative problem-solving tasks. Their attention spans improved. Their emotional regulation improved. And every single one of them reported the same thing. They started hearing themselves think in a way they hadn't experienced in years, sometimes decades. One participant said something that the researchers found haunting. He said, "I forgot what my own thoughts sounded like." That's the part of the story nobody talks about. For 300,000 years, your ancestors lived inside their own heads in a way most modern humans have never experienced. Their thoughts weren't competing with anything. There was no traffic in the background, no notification ping, no electrical hum, no neighbor's television leaking through the wall. When they thought about something, the thought had room to exist. It could grow, branch, contradict itself, surprise them. The interior life of an ancient human was probably more spacious, more strange, and more vivid than anything you've experienced in your adult life. And we will never know what they did with that space. We can only guess that it built the religions, the myths, the art, and the philosophies that founded every civilization that came after. So why does this matter? Because the silence didn't just leave, it took something with it. There's a concept in acoustic ecology called the silent witness. The idea is that natural soundscapes are not just background, they are evidence of a functioning world. When a forest goes quiet because the insects have died, the silence isn't peaceful, it's apocalyptic. Krause has spent decades returning to the same recording locations year after year, and he says the biophonies in many of them are collapsing. Species are dropping out. Frequencies that used to be full are now empty. He's recording what he calls the Great Thinning. And here's the cruelest irony. Most of us will never hear it happen because we're already drowning it out with our own noise. We covered the silence so completely that we can't even tell when it's dying. There are children alive right now who have never, not once in their entire lives, sat in a place quiet enough to hear their own heartbeat. Think about what that means. The most basic acoustic experience of being a human animal, hearing the sound your own body makes, has become a privilege that you have to travel to experience. But maybe the strangest thing isn't what we lost. It's what we keep doing about it. Every year, millions of people pay money to visit national parks, wilderness areas, and isolated retreats specifically to experience quiet. We've turned silence into a luxury good. Spas charge hundreds of dollars an hour for sensory deprivation tanks. Headphones with active noise cancellation are a multi-billion-dollar industry. Meditation apps that simulate natural soundscapes have hundreds of millions of users. The body knows what it's missing. The body remembers something the conscious mind has forgotten. And maybe that yearning, that pull toward quiet that you felt your whole life without being able to name it, isn't a personal preference. Maybe it's something older than you, something built into your nervous system across hundreds of thousands of years. Maybe when you find yourself craving a quiet morning, or longing for the woods, or feeling inexplicably calmer the second you step away from the city, what you're feeling is the only part of your ancient self that survived the noise, the part that still remembers what the world used to sound like before we filled it with engines and forgot how to listen. The next time you sit somewhere truly quiet and the hum starts to fade, and you can hear leaves moving in a tree 50 feet away, pay attention to what happens inside you. Notice how your shoulders drop. Notice how your breath changes. Notice that strange feeling of recognition, like you've come home to a place you've never been. That's not relaxation. That's 300,000 years of evolutionary memory exhaling. That's your body finally hearing the world it was designed for. And it lasted for the entire history of our species until we built a single generation of machines that erased it forever. Most of us will live our whole lives without ever knowing the world our ancestors knew. We won't hear what they heard. We won't think the thoughts that quiet gave them room to think. We won't experience the version of being human that existed for 99.9% of human existence. We traded all of that for convenience. And the loudest part of this whole story is that almost nobody noticed it leaving. If this made you stop and listen to your own room for a second, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel reach people who need to hear this. And I want to know in the comments, what's the quietest place you've ever been in your life, and what did it feel like? Read the replies after you write yours, because some of them are going to stay with you. Subscribe if you want more videos that change the way you experience your own life, because the next one is already strange enough that you're going to want to be here for it.